Hey guys, what's up? Fan here again, and I'm bringing you guys another video today, and the topic will be on the patch notes that are coming out on April 12th, 2016. So this is the upcoming patch, and it's quite a few changes to quite a few heroes, and I wanted to give my thoughts on these heroes and just the patch notes in general. So that's what I'll be doing in this video, so let's get started here. Um, Let's see. So moving on here, we see that Dampen Magic has a minor change there. I'm not going to talk too much about that. It's an interesting change. I don't see things being hugely affected by it, but there's a lot of other changes here that I want to cover, so I'm just going to glance on by that one. So the first notable change that I see here is that in the Assassins category, Falstad's Mighty Gust cooldown has been increased from 40 to 60 seconds. Now, a lot of people have been calling for this, saying that it's necessary, and 40 seconds is just way too short of a cooldown, and I completely agree with that. However, I think that a lot of people are thinking that Falstad will be like a weaker hero because this cooldown was increased from 40 to 60 seconds, and right now, in my opinion, I think Falstad is still going to be almost exactly as strong as he is right now. Because I think the difference between 40 to 60 seconds, while it does sound like a big difference, it's just really not a big difference in game. I consider both of them extremely short cooldowns. Like 40 was just insanely short, but 60 is still pretty short cooldown, and 60 seconds is like it'll be up for every single team fight guaranteed. And you can still use it to make those, plays in between team fights where you want to maybe gust a player, or if you get caught, you just use gust to get out. I think you can still use it just whenever you want, and basically, I think that Falstad is, this might seem like a nerf, a big nerf, but in reality, in my opinion, it's a very small nerf and it won't change too much. When you think about 60-second cooldown ults, there's things like Strafe, Old Phoenix, and these things were all very, very spammable. And the same applies to Mighty Gust. It's still pretty spammable. Sure, it's gonna get a little bit better, but I still think Falstad will be extremely powerful. And moving on to Illidan, basically the new Illidan is unbelievably strong and basically like impossible to kill if a really good player is playing it. Um, you know, so I think the Illidan changes here are much needed changes. Illidan's been pretty much banned in every Hero League game that I've played, and if he's not, he's absolutely first picked. Just really way too powerful of a hero right now. And yeah, so I think these changes are good. They're needed. The heal is gonna go down from 40% to 30% on his auto attacks. And of course, you see some other talents being altered, so they aren't quite as good. Um, the dive range is going to go from 33 to 20%, and you only get 2 charges of block instead of 3 from reflexive block. And friend or foe and reflexive block are pretty much 100% must-take talents on the new Illidan, just because of how hard, or how tanky, or yeah, basically they make Illidan impossible to kill. So nerfing both of these is good. However, I think that um, it's really not going to change too much. I think Illidan is still going to be extremely good. The 30%, 40 to 30% lifesteal does hurt a bit, but like range bonus decreased from 33 to 20%, I think that's very negligible. Just the fact that you can still dive on an ally, and the range is still increased by quite a considerable amount. Like that's still gonna make Illidan extremely hard to kill. And 2 block charges instead of 3. When you're queuing someone like every 2 or 3 seconds, it matters, but it doesn't matter that much that you're reducing it by 1. So I think overall Illidan is still going to be very, very good. These changes are definitely in the right direction, but I think Illidan will still be very powerful next patch as well. And yeah, obviously there's some buffs to these other talents as well. Battered Assault, I think, could be pretty good in certain situations. It's a pretty big damage increase, and Unbound is also interesting, but I think Friend or Foe is pretty much a must-take, so I'm not sure if people will use that. Um, Moving on, we have Kael'thas. So Kael'thas is getting buffs across the board, which is a good thing. Health regen, getting buffs. Flame strike damage is getting buffed. Living bomb damage gets buffed. Gravity lapse cooldown slightly increased. Mana cost slightly decreased. So all of this is just straight buffs to KT, which I think were very much needed. The problem with KT and Jaina right now is that they're mages with just absolutely no way of defending themselves. They don't have good escapes. KT doesn't even have Arcane Barrier until he gets 25 globes. Jaina no longer has Ice Block. They don't have like dashes like Falstad or Vala. Or Li-Ming, so they're just very, very vulnerable, and that's their main weakness right now. So even though these buffs are pretty good, I think these buffs will make Kael'thas like playable, but I don't think Kael'thas is going to be even good, let alone OP. So I think he's just gonna be at the playable range, whereas right now I think he's basically unplayable, like he's that bad. But once again, obviously his numbers getting buffed are good, but KT and Jaina still have that problem where they basically have no way of escaping if someone gets to focus them, and that's something that's really, really important for ranged assassins to have. So yeah, that problem wasn't fixed, but the numbers buff is nice. Moving on to Li-Ming. Li-Ming got nerfs, quite a few nerfs across the board. Dominance, which is a very popular talent. It's a decrease in the amount of health restoration that you get. I don't think this one's that big of a deal. 25 to 20%. That's really not too big of a deal. I don't think it'll make much difference at all. Arcane Orb, damage reduced by 10%, and cooldown reduced, and mana cost is also reduced. I think this is actually kind of a big deal because at least the style of Li-Ming that I play, I really like to just stack burst damage and try and one-shot someone. And when the biggest part of your burst damage arguably is reduced in damage by 10%, I think that kind of sucks. It's going to make Li-Ming more of a poke hero and slightly less of a burst hero, which is still fine. I'm sure that she'll still be, quite good after the patch. It's not like she's going to be bad or anything. Right now, I think Li-Ming is probably like the second best ranged assassin, if not the first best ranged assassin. So she'll fall down a little bit, but Li-Ming will still be a very, very good ranged assassin, and I'm almost certain that she'll still be better than Jaina or KT. Yeah, just because of the way she works. She can do damage safely, and she has an escape. And she does a lot of damage, even with these damage nerfs. Let's see. Obviously, the Calamity build is getting nerfed a little bit. I don't care too much about this. The Calamity AoE is getting reduced by 10%, but if you've ever looked at the Calamity AoE circle, it's actually huge. So reducing that by 10%, I don't think it's going to change much. Maybe it makes your wave clear like slightly weaker, but even then, it's not going to change much. Like the Calamity circle AoE effect is actually gigantic, so nerfing it a little bit, it'll still be perfectly fine to use. I think that's fine. Illusionist getting nerfed from, the CD on teleport will only refresh if you take 20% of your maximum HP pool now. And I think this one is a pretty big nerf. 15%, it would probably, Illusionist pretty much always procced if someone was trying to like focus you down from 100 to 0. But now 20%, I'm really not so sure that that will be the case. At 15%, even if like a Thrall just used Wind Fury on you and whacked you 3 times, that would like proc the illusionist talent. I think illusionist will still be really good. I think that you'll still be taking this, but it just makes it a lot more unreliable in my opinion. And yeah, I think this has the potential to be a really big nerf. I'm not exactly sure like what spells would trigger at 15% that would not trigger at 20%, so it's hard to say at this point. But just reading it initially, my first impressions are that this could potentially be a pretty big nerf. Disintegrate cooldown is increased from 20 to 30 seconds. This is a huge nerf. One of the reasons Disintegrate was so incredibly good is because it was only a 20-second cooldown and you could use it to poke. You could use it to clear lanes. You could use it to do anything, and it would absolutely be back up before any fight happened. So you lose utility from Disintegrate, but honestly, I kind of have mixed reviews about this. I mean, this is a nerf, obviously, and it sucks. But I think, Li-Ming's still playable because in team fights, it basically just means if you go Disintegrate, you need to save it for a team fight. Because in team fights, if you have your Disintegrate up, chances are you're going to get the reset on the Disintegrate after your first kill anyway, so the cooldown increase in a team fight is not that important. What you're really losing is the utility, where you can't use it before a fight starts to poke anymore. You can't use it to clear a wave anymore if you think you're going to be fighting really soon. So you're losing some utility there, but overall, I mean, it's not going to nerf the hero into the ground or anything, even though it is kind of a big nerf just in terms of utility. And moving on here, we have Thrall, and there's only one change for Thrall here, which is stun duration reduced from 1.5 to 1.25 seconds for sundering. And in my opinion, this is actually a pretty big nerf. Like, Thrall is good for like two reasons in my opinion. The first reason is he is insanely good in lane against anyone, and the second reason is Sunder. They've already nerfed Sunder like by adding cooldown to it, and they're nerfing Sunder again by reducing stun duration. Now, 0.25 seconds might not seem like much, but I mean, honestly, I think this is a pretty big nerf to Thrall just because, a lot of initiations you have Thrall Sunder to start the fight, and the fact that you're losing 0.25 seconds on your initiation, it just really sucks. Not to mention that Sunder is a spell that could hit a lot of heroes, right? On average, you can hit anywhere from 2 to 5 heroes with Sunder, so you're losing that time of stun duration on a lot of people, not just one person. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this. I think this just it's a fairly decent nerf to Thrall. Won't make him unplayable. He'll still be good, extremely good in lane. He'll still do a lot of damage. He'll still be a very good melee assassin. But yeah, definitely a nerf, and he might go down the ranks of the melee assassins a bit. He's been at the top for a very long time. I would say at least until this patch, where Illidan is probably the best right now because of the new Illidan rework. But yeah, this might put him down a bit further on the melee assassins. But he'll still be good. Let's see. Here we have another change. Tychus. I haven't played Tychus too much, so I don't want to talk too much on this, but you can see there's some health buffs on Tychus and some minigun damage increase as well. And overall, it's pretty good. Don't really have too much to say about this. Excuse me. And I just haven't played with Tychus in enough games to really know for sure, but it seems like they're gonna make Tychus into at least the viable assassin against tanky frontliners, which is pretty cool. I do think right now Tychus is a little bit too weak. Like even with the minigun, I don't think it does enough to actually chunk tanks out. So this will definitely help a little bit, and yeah, hopefully he goes into like. Right now, I would say Tychus isn't really like a viable assassin, and hopefully this pushes him more into viability. Next, we have Abathur. Just a small change for Evolve Monstrosity. I think it's pretty cool. I don't think this is enough to make people take Evolve Monstrosity, like all the time or anything, but maybe once in a while if you're like, trying to split push. I think Monstrosity with this change and a smart Abathur player, it's good enough to be picked over evolution in some niche cases. Not all the time, not most of the time even, but in some niche cases, Monstrosity might be better now. Next, we have a bunch of ultimates that are going to be changed from the support section. Emerald Wind now passively increases your healing by 8%. I think this is a great step in the right direction. Yeah, just because, the problem with the damage heroics on healers is that you don't get enough healing, so increasing the healing on damage heroics is a pretty cool way of making Emerald Wind and other damage heroics more viable. I don't think this is going to be taken over Blink Heal by any means, but it'll be interesting to see. For Li, I think this is actually a pretty big deal. Like they basically doubled the damage of Water Dragon and cut its mana cost to 50, which is almost nothing. And I mean, I think the double damage increase is actually going to make Li pretty viable. Like that's a significant damage boost, and I can actually see Li being pretty good in some double healer comps and running Water Dragon, especially in Hero League. Like I would say this is the change that I'm like watching the most for because I think the Water Dragon doubling almost in damage is something that is very significant. At least out of all of these, I feel like this is gonna be like it's gonna make Li with Water Dragon pretty good in Hero League at the very least. Um, Twilight Dream now increases mouse mana regen by 1.5 seconds a second. It's pretty cool. Don't have too many thoughts on it. We'll have to see. I still think mouse are gonna take Trank because it just fits with what teams need so much more than Twilight Dream. But it's cool. Here, Starfall is going to be a much more competitive ultimate now with the damage increase. This is also, in my opinion, a pretty sizable damage increase, considering how large the AoE for Starfall is. It's a 20-second cooldown reduction, which is pretty sizable, and mana cost doesn't matter too much. But overall, I think Starfall got a considerable buff as well, and I'd say we should be watching out for Starfall as well. So. And lastly, Uther Divine Storm. Like, Divine Storm has gotten a lot of popularity recently because of all the Illidans. D-Storm in particular is very good against Illidan because you can chain stun him when he jumps in for so long, and a 0.25 second AoE stun is kind of not exactly, but it's like the opposite of what they're doing to Thrall. So I think this is actually, I don't want to call it significant, but it's going to push D-Storm into viability for sure. I think D-Storm is already viable in some cases, and it's just going to help that. And yeah, so out of the supports, I would say the Water Dragon, the Starfall, and the D-Storm are the three most impactful changes, and those are the ones that are going to be getting more play. As far as Warrior is concerned, damage from Stage Dive got buff. That's nice. Don't think it's going to see much more play over Mosh Pit, though. Same with Falling Sword. Damage got buffed. Don't think it's going to see that much more play over the shield. And last one is Haymaker. I do think Haymaker will see a lot more play. There's really good tank players such as King Caffeine from C9 who already used Haymaker just to get more damage. And obviously, this just makes it so that Haymaker can deal considerable amounts of higher damage depending on how you use it. And yeah, in the tank section, I would just say watch out for this Haymaker one. It's the most likely one to see a lot more play. And that's about all for this patch. So yeah, I guess that's it for this video. Thanks for staying with me for the whole video, guys. I'm going to try and upload more videos, so make sure you follow the YouTube channel. If you have any comments, make sure to leave them in the section below, and I'll try and respond to you guys. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.